The story tells of a scholar named Li Boyan from Yishui. He was a person of integrity and courage. One day, he suddenly fell seriously ill. His family wanted to give him medicine, but Li Boyan stopped them and said, "My illness cannot be cured by medicine. There's a vacancy for the position of Yama, the king of the underworld in the netherworld, and they want me to temporarily act as a substitute. When I die, don't bury me. Wait for my resurrection." That day, he indeed passed away. After Li Boyan's death, his ghost was led by a group of mounted attendants into a palace. Someone offered him royal attire. The eunuch officials stood solemnly on both sides. Li Boyan noticed a thick stack of scrolls piled up on a table, and immediately began to preside over trials. The first case involved a person from the south who, upon investigation, had committed adultery with 82 married women in his lifetime. When the accused was brought in for questioning, the evidence was conclusive. According to the laws of the netherworld, he should be subjected to a brutal punishment. Below the hall stood a copper pillar, about 8 or 9 feet high, and as thick as an embrace. The pillar was hollow in the middle and filled with burning charcoal, glowing red hot both inside and out. A group of hellish officials used iron-spiked whips to lash the man, forcing him to climb the pillar. He held on with his hands and feet, and climbed up. As soon as he reached the top, smoke billowed from the pillar. And with a loud bang, like a firecracker, he plummeted down from the top, curling up on the ground. After a while, he regained consciousness. The hellish officials lashed him again, compelling him to climb again, only for him to fall once more. This cycle repeated 3 times, and gradually the man was burnt into a black cloud, slowly dissipating, never regaining his human form. In another case, the accused turned out to be Wang, a close relative of Li Boyan from the same county. The father of a slave girl accused him of forcibly taking his own daughter. As it turned out, someone was selling the slave girl, and Wang knew that her origin was unclear. Still, driven by the low price, he purchased her. Shortly thereafter, Wang fell seriously ill and died. A day later, his friend Zhou suddenly encountered him on the road. Recognizing him as a ghost, Zhou was terrified and rushed back to his study. To his surprise, Wang followed him into the study. Terrified, Zhou prayed and asked him what he wanted. Wang said, "I need you to testify for me in the netherworld." Trembling, Zhou asked, "What happened?" Wang explained, "My slave girl, who I obviously bought with my own money, is now being falsely accused of being forcibly taken. You witnessed this event, so I implore you to speak on my behalf. It's the only matter I ask of you." Zhou firmly refused. Wang left, saying, "I won't let this go." Not long after, Zhou indeed died and found himself in the Yama hall for trial. Upon seeing the accused, his relative Wang Boyan felt a pang of bias. Just as this thought arose, flames erupted on the dais, roaring and consuming the ceiling. Li Boyan was shocked and quickly stood up. A clerk promptly told him, "The netherworld is unlike the mortal realm. It tolerates no personal inclinations. You must immediately dismiss such thoughts, and the flames will extinguish themselves." Li Boyan focused his thoughts and dispelled his bias, and the flames instantly disappeared. He continued with the trial. Wang and the slave girl's father disputed the events, so Li Boyan questioned Zhou, who truthfully recounted what had happened. Li Boyan judged that Wang, with full knowledge, had committed a deliberate offense and sentenced him to flogging. After the punishment, they were sent back to the mortal realm. Both Zhou and Wang regained consciousness 3 days later. After concluding the trials, Li Boyan returned by carriage. Along the way, he encountered a group of headless and footless ghosts, numbering in the hundreds, kneeling and weeping on the road. Li Boyan stopped his carriage and inquired about the situation. It turned out that they were ghosts who had died away from home. They wanted to return to their hometown, but were afraid of obstacles along the way. Therefore, they begged Yama for a road pass. Li Boyan said, "I've only served as a substitute for 3 days. I'm no longer in that position. How can I help you?" The ghosts replied, Hu Sheng from the southern village is about to establish a Taoist temple. Please entrust him to fulfill our request. Li Boyan agreed. Upon arriving home, his attendants left, and Li Boyan woke up. Hu Sheng, also known as Shui Xin, had a close relationship with Li Boyan. Upon hearing that Li Boyan had returned to life, Hu Sheng came to visit him. Li Boyan suddenly asked, When are you building the Taoist temple? Astonished, Hu Sheng asked, After the wars, my wife and children miraculously survived. I had mentioned this wish to my wife, but I never told anyone else. How did you know? Li Boyan detailed the request of the ghosts. Hu Sheng sighed and said, I never imagined that a casual remark in the bedroom would spread to the netherworld. It's truly terrifying. He respectfully agreed and left. The next day, Boyan went to Wang's house. Wang was still lying weakly in bed. When he saw Li Boyan arrive, he respectfully got up and repeatedly thanked him for his protection. Li Boyan said, The netherworld does not show favoritism. How are your injuries? Wang replied, I'm okay, just the places where I was beaten have pus. After more than 20 days, Wang finally recovered. The rotten flesh on his buttocks fell off, leaving only scars resembling the marks of a stick.
Alright, this story has come to an end. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you.